Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of my favourite people and some of the world's biggest stars. And we've got one for you today. Matthew Kelly, stop laughing.
Oh, yeah. I'm one of the world's biggest stars.
Tell you what, to me you are, and here's why. Last night I sat in a theatre and saw you mesmerise an audience in Toast here at Nottingham. You're about to go to New York. I grew up watching you, as I've told you before, in all those shows you did, from Stars in Your Eyes to You Bet. You were one of the biggest stars on TV, and you're still as compelling today. Congratulations.
Oh, cheers, mate. Oh, I don't know what to say about that. Oh, yeah. Oh, tell me some more. Yeah, that's what I want to say about that.
Let's reel off your CV. I mean, it is incredible. And what's interesting is how your career trajectory has changed, but sort of gone up in a different way. I mean, Olivier Award winning for a start with Mice and Men. There was the Panto period where you nailed that and got incredible reviews. It must be great to be credible, because you can't buy that.
Oh, credibility, yes. I'm never quite sure what that is, really. I just do the work I just do work, really. And I'm jammy where work's concerned. I think the trick is to be cheap and available. That's the way to do it, yes. And it doesn't seem to fail, actually. Although I don't know, I've got nothing after May, so have a word, will you?
Do you ever analyse what you do and how you do it? Do you ever see yourself from sort of above and look down, or do you avoid all that?
Oh, I don't know. I never thought about that. No, I don't think I'm capable of looking at that. Sounds like an out-of-body experience. That sounds good. I think that might need chemical assistance, though. No, I don't. I just do the jobs that I think are I like the look of, and I mean, if you look at my CV, it looks pretty good. But there never seems to have been much of a choice about it. I don't think there is much of a choice. Sometimes you have to do work that pays you money because you have to pay the mortgage, and sometimes you have to do jobs that you like. But there's one thing about my career, and that is that I can't do anything that I don't believe in. So I have to do stuff that my heart is in. So while I was doing the presenting, then my heart was in it, and it was fantastic, and I had a wonderful time, and I enjoyed all the work that I did on that. But there came a point where my heart wasn't in it anymore, and I asked them if I could leave, and they went, yeah. I thought, well, you could have fought a little bit. That would have been nice. So I just went back to what I knew, and it wasn't really even going back, because I did telly for a long time. But while I was doing the telly work, I was doing theatre work the whole time. So doing theatre work is like practicing your art in private, really, because you can get seen by, in those days, up to 20 million people in an hour on a Saturday night, because there were only 3 channels. And now, like at the Theatre Royal in Nottingham, where we are, it has 1,100 seats. Well, the most I'll get seen by, at the very most, will probably be about 7,000 in the week. Well, if you compare 7,000 to 20 million, then the numbers don't crunch very well. So when I kind of went back to acting full time, people went, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I said, well, why would you? I've been practicing a long time.
You were very good as a host, and you got it down where you made it look like you weren't reading when you were reading an auto cue, and you made it look very natural. Where you were great was with the people. But I wonder if there's something a little bit soulless about that, because you're sort of stood on a spot and you have to be kind of robotic to keep the whole thing going. Is that why you continue to do theatre, so your creative side could come out?
I think it's because what I liked about the presenting was that in the jobs that I did, there was no prize money. There were no trophies. They were lucky if they've got a bunch of flowers. And in the end, they were doing all the work and I was getting all the money. Fantastic. It was a win-win. So I enjoyed the work, but there came a point where I didn't want to do it anymore. So I had to move on. And also, I like to look around on stage and find somebody else to talk to, particularly with other people's words, because other people can say stuff that I would like to say much more succinctly and eruditely than I ever could. So, you find good playwrights, particularly somebody like Richard Bean, whose work comes out of his own personal experience, and you can tell because you feel sympathy and empathy for all his characters. And also, I like team events. I like ensemble playing. I don't like vehicles. I don't like being in a dressing room on my own. I like working with actors. I like playing in the dressing up box with my chums. That's the whole point of it. larking about, really. And I mean, it's not work. It's something I wanted to do ever since I was 6, and I still have that feeling about it because it's magic to me. I saw my first pantomime when I was 6, and I thought, that's where I want to be. And I wanted to be one of the kids in the know. I didn't want to be one of the kids dragged up at the end for the exploitation bit. I wanted to know what happened when those tap dancers went off into the wings. Yeah. And I can sit in the wings even now. And it's also the fact that I know something that the audience don't know. I know how it works. I think it's just fantastic, and I don't want them to know. Now, here's a funny thing. When you get DVDs of films and stuff, and you get a DVD of extras, why do they do that? Why do they tell people how it's done? Have you been to Curve in Leicester? Yeah. Curve, you can't say the Curve.
Oh, is that right? You get in trouble?
No, you can't. Pretentious load of old nonsense. Yeah. Anyway, I played there, but they have a thing there where the wings of the main theatre rise electronically at the end of a show to show the audience what happens backstage. Well, I think that's utter nonsense. The whole point is that the audience don't know how it's done. It's all smoke and mirrors. I think retain the magic, and it retains its power. And for me, theatre is the most powerful medium of all.
And it's beautiful because anything can happen, as it does regularly. And I wonder, as we sit here in this dressing room, is this bit fun or is this the worst bit? Obviously, talking to me is not fun, but this waiting to go on in 2 hours.
Oh, to me, that's the best bit. I like the bits in between, yeah. Right. Yeah. When you're not doing anything and you're just larking about and messing about with your chums. Because I'm with 7 lads on this, and they're just fantastic fun. And we've all been together on a very long tour. This Nottingham is the final week of a 10-week tour. And we were all together in North London about 18 months ago. And then we're going on to an off-Broadway season. And I've never played New York before, so that'll be exciting. But no, I'm the same on filming. Sitting around doing nothing is my favourite bit.
Get all the gossip.
Yeah. And I'm brilliant at gossip because I never remember because I never remember anything. So you can tell me something twice, and I'm just as thrilled the second time. Yeah.
I love that. One of the things we saw you on TV, and we are going to get around to Toast in a moment, but we just saw you as Cyril in Benidorm, which I thought was just beautiful. You did it a couple of years ago and then came back. Yeah. I mean, that show is a hoot, isn't it? And again, there are some sneery people who say, oh, it's down market and all this. Actually, it's old vaudeville nonsense that people love, and that's why it's got millions of viewers.
Well, yes, it is. Some of it's silly, some of it's very moving, and the best bit is you get to go out and do the whole lot in Spain. Great, yeah. I like that character. I wanted them to write the character in, but they didn't. I did 1 episode in Series 5 and 2 episodes in Series 6, and nothing in Series 7. So there's been no sign of him coming back, which is a great heartache to me.
Do you take it personally, or is it just another gig?
Yeah, I take everything personally. Yeah, of course I do. What do you mean you don't want me? I'm fabulous. Isn't it funny? I never read crits, never, because it's very bad for the soul, I think. But it's a really odd thing. I don't like everybody, even though I appear to. I don't like everybody, but I'm always shocked when people don't like me. I think, what's not to like? I'm fantastic. Do you know what I mean?
Again, if you start reading those reviews, you can't become selective only going to the 5-star ones, can you?
Yeah, but I would only go to the 5-star ones, yeah.
Me too.
And sometimes my family go, oh, you've got to read this one, it's great. And sometimes as a treat, I'll read them afterwards. Because they're not really very constructive. You need constructive criticism from the people you love and trust. Well, most of those critics I don't know. So I don't know whether I would trust them or not.
Although Ken Dodd did say once, never ask your mother what she thinks of the show because she'll tell you.
Oh, my mum had to say, my real name's David. Well, my mum, she used to, if I ever got overexcited or a bit loud, which is quite a lot, she used to go, you're not on stage now, David. And I would feel 2 inches high. I know.
Yeah, it's crushing, isn't it?
Crushing.
Were you always this? I mean, were you always this guy? Or is this sort of a front to a guy who sits at home in the corner crying? Because you seem so confident and so self-assured and so naturally funny and able to be you, which most people in life struggle with.
I do, don't I? Yes, it's kind of maddening. In a way, the thing is, I have a fantastically enthusiastic and optimistic outlook in life, and that I got from my parents. So yes, I suppose this is me. I don't know. I mean, I'm not always jolly. Sometimes I'm a miserable git. But, I'm old now, so, old people are miserable and they get in the way and they're really annoying. But you get free money. I'm telling you, Alex, it's so worth waiting for, being a pensioner. Honestly, you just ring a bloke up in Newcastle and he says, where do you want the money sending? I say, well, lovely, that'll do me. Pop it in the bank, thank you.
Do you get more in benefits than you do sat here doing this show to 1,100?
No, not really. Nobody does. But that's why I shall never retire, because there's always some old git to play, isn't there? So we don't have to retire. And also, this is a good kind of life to have, because we have no set routines. We're never in the same place more than a week at a time or a month at a time, So we don't rely on the things that a lot of other people do.
Let's talk about this play. I was in last night, and it's Toast. It's set in a bakery. It's hysterical and funny, as you would expect from the man who wrote Governors, which is probably one of the greatest plays ever written. And there you are at the centre of all this, somewhat curmudgeonly, with the zingers and sort of the sarcasm and all of that. And it is compelling. We're best not giving it away, are we? Because that would ruin it.
Well, what I can tell you about it is that it's, as you know, it's set in 1975 in a bakery in Hull, and it's based on Richard Bean's experiences as a student. And there are 7 men doing the late shift on a Sunday, and it's done almost in real time. And a man who you think is a student comes into the picture, and he predicts my character's death. And they have all said that if this bakery closes down, because I'm playing this knackered old spanner who's been there for 45 years, and they say, well, what will happen to my character if the bakery shuts down or breaks down? And they reckon that he will die. And then, of course, something dreadful happens in the middle of the play. And it doesn't sound very funny, does it? But it is a very funny piece. Richard Bean won't have it called a comedy, but it is funny because it's very observational. And my character is fantastic because he's monosyllabic, he chain smokes, and he eats cheese sandwich. And that's about all. Free cigarettes and free cheese. Marvellous. Who could want for more?
Yeah, are you paying them or are they paying you? It's got a pathos, this, and that, of course, is what every great play has, and an energy to it as well. And it's not too long, thank God.
Oh, short pieces are marvellous. I mean, I do away with the interval. I mean, we all like a drink kick, which perks you up for the second half. Think, well, maybe I can face a bit more of this. But it's a lovely piece. And the first act is 1 hour, the second act is 45 minutes. And the strange thing is, whatever happens to my character, whatever happens, and I'm not going to tell you what happens to him, but something extraordinary does happen. But it's a very uplifting play, and actually it'll make you feel better about yourself and the world afterwards, because funnily enough, it's not just about my character, it's about all 7 of them and what happens to them and how they look out for each other and look after each other. And of course, being set in 1975 is a time before health and safety, and I remember a time round about that time when 2 men actually died in the ovens of a bakery, and I'm not going to tell you which one. But people probably get sued. But it is true. It is a true fact that men used to go in the ovens to fix while they were still burning. So you might think it's going to be awful at the end. But however it is, it'll make you happy, and because they do kind of win in the end. And also, it's a time before social media. So when people went into the canteen to get their smokes, because in those days you could smoke indoors, chain smoke indoors, as it turns out, and they used to talk to each other because they wouldn't get on social media. They wouldn't immediately go. I mean, it's terrible. The minute I come off stage and come back into the dressing room, the first thing I do is look at my mobile phone. I mean, that's ridiculous. I've only been away for 10 minutes. What's that? Nonsense.
Yeah, it is a sad reflection. And I wonder, almost the first question I ask you, why you? Do you wonder why they pick you? Because you're going to New York, you've made it through the run, you've had rave reviews. I know you haven't read them, but you really have. And everybody said the same thing. There's something very captivating about this performance that you give. That's a great compliment, isn't it, that they asked you?
It is, actually, yes. I don't know why they asked me. I don't know where they got my name from. It's funny.
Do you still think nobody's heard of you?
Well, I don't know. The thing is, when we did this at first, we worked for 2 months for nothing at the Park Theatre in North London. Because it's a new company, this, and they're two girls setting out. They've done a few productions, directing and producing, and that's another thing particularly about art and culture, about people who want to do stuff. You have to encourage them, because we all started somewhere, and so it doesn't matter in the end. And look, you see, now we've done this 10-week tour, having worked for 2 months for nothing. And now we're having a week 4 weeks on Broadway. Imagine that's not paying, but well, hey, it's 4 weeks kicking off the Brits Off Broadway Festival, and so
who knows who might see you? That's the other thing.
Well, you never know, do you? But really, it's just thrilling to me because New York is very big to me because my grandparents emigrated there when they were 60. They packed up and they went to America to make their fortune, and they did. And they came back like 15 years later with their fortune.
What did they do? How did they make their money?
My grandmother did needlepoint, very fine needlepoint, and she did smocking. And my grandfather was an electrical engineer, and he worked on radar. Right. Yeah, and they left in 1949, so there wasn't much going on in this country. So they went to New York, and they. So it's been inspiring, and there used to be a thing called, you won't have heard of this, but there was a thing called a Viewmaster, which was a thing that you put up to your eyes, and it was a 3D thing. You used to get discs.
Yes, and I got it when you turn the thing.
And you turn the thing. Yeah. And one of the discs, amongst all the nursery rhymes, which I wasn't really bothered with, were views of New York, like the Empire State Building and a view of the Queen Mary that they went on from the bows upwards. And I was absolutely inspired by this disc. So New York has always been big to me, and I've always. My older brother works in LA. He works in films.
I feel the same. There's nothing quite like when you get off that plane and see that horizon, isn't it?
I must say, there's Broadway or Vegas or the film industry. It frightens me. I'm not that kind of interested.
I get the feeling in this conversation, more so than last, that you don't realise A, how loved you are, B, how popular you are, C, how much of a star you are. This all seems to have passed you by.
Oh, I'm loving this. Come on, tell me some more. It's just great.
But I'm not actually doing it for that. I mean, I'm being serious. You've been doing this a long time and you're still at it, and people seem to think you're very good. Why can't you take the compliment?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Well, I will. And lovely. And if you could see your way clear to finding me a job in May, that would be very nice.
I'll do that for you. And then very finally, we look forward after May. I mean, Benidorm, you'd like to go back if they'll have you, and I'm sure they will have you back at some point, because Cyril really...
think Squirrel Big Cock. Yeah. Oh, yes, great favourite with rain. Do you know what's a funny thing about that? They painted my hair orange. And I had a choreographer because I had to have a dance off with, what's the character's name? Oh, he's such a lovely actor as well. I can't remember his name now. Oh, it's the really handsome one.
Oh yeah. Matteo.
Right? Matteo, yeah, with Matteo, right? So I had to do this great big dance off thing, and I had to learn the dance, but of course I can't do tap. So everybody thought I was a marvellous dancer, but they thought I was wearing a wig. But I have to tell your viewers, actually, that the hair was mine, but the feet weren't.
The joys of TV. Listen, I wish you all the best in New York. What a great tribute. No, I mean it. And this play is truly wonderful, and it celebrates what you do. You've got a depth that I don't know how you do it, and all you guys that are great make it look so simple. That's all I can tell you. I'm no critic, but that's how I felt watching you, so congratulations.
Cheers, mate. Nobody can eat a cheese sandwich like I can.
It's marvellous, and no dribbling either.
I do that when I come off stage.
Matthew Kelly, great to talk to you.
Hooray, thank you.